Hi, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the concept of enterprise crime. In that area, there's two categories. There's white-collar crime and there's green-collar crime. Both of them different and some a little bit the same. White-collar crime involves activities of people and institutions whose acknowledged purpose is illegal profit through legitimate business transactions. Green-collar crime is criminology is concerned with the study of environmental harm, environmental laws, and environmental regulation. Both of them affect every single one of us. And very often people don't realize that. When you talk about your enterprises crimes, you don't think of violence, but enterprise violence, the two, which would be your white and your green collar, and it kills and injures more people than all street crimes combined. So that's an awful lot. So when we look at this, we're going to talk about it's a crime that people typically consider it's committed by a person of respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. What's the number one reason? Greed. Greed gets everybody. So defining white collar, when you sit there and you look at it, we're talking about tax evasion. Who doesn't want to pay less taxes? Credit card and bankruptcy frauds, embezzlement, violations of trust, swindles, and corporate crime. One of them that you don't even think of very often is insurance fraud. So think of your own lives or people that you've known or accidents you've been involved in. How many times have you heard people have claimed that they've been hurt when in fact they really haven't been hurt, or that their car was broken into, their house was broken into, and to make their deductible, they might have padded it a little. They might have added a few things to it. Those are all crimes. Those are all, it's fraud. And people are charged with that on a regular basis. When I was working at the police department, every single day we would have somebody come in and look at the accident reports and see what ones were personal injury and which ones weren't. And they would contact the personal injury victims and, ask them if they had any soft tissue injuries. Happened all the time. So, white collar crime, as we said, it affects every single one of us. It's very difficult to estimate how the extent of harm it is to victims, but we all pay very high insurance premiums, and some of that's because of the fact that people are overstating what has been stolen or overstating what their injuries are, and because so we're paying for that. If you live in Springfield versus South Hadley, you're paying more for your car insurance because there's more auto theft, and the trickle down effect is it affects every one of us. The annual cost of white collar crime is estimated to be $660 billion. $660 billion. That's not Trump change. That's a lot of money. And of that, of all the victims, only 70%, only 30% report it. 70% do not report white collar crimes. Very often, if it's the elderly, they're embarrassed to do so. They don't want their children to think that they've become so feeble that um, you know, they were fooled or they were bamboozled. So the elderly are the least likely to report. And that's a really sad part of it. And, you see a lot of them being taken for every bit of money they have. When we talk about it, it's when we talk about fraud and people being, suckered in, it's 1 in 8, 1 in 8 people. That's you know, we all know victims of that. I have to tell you, I'm married to one of those. He was a victim of fraud. It's very easy to become a victim of fraud without knowing it. It's con artist. Uh, there's a lot of people out there who use a business proposition to fraudulently trick others out of their money. I know of a person who was selling it was a form of money from Afghanistan, and he was telling it's a get rich quick. You've all heard of the gold scams where everybody you send $150 to each person. Well, those trickle down. There's somebody that's going to be a victim. There's always going to be somebody that's a victim. And then you have your investment swindles. You have the Bernie Maddens. You have people that are attempting to fraudulently siphon off clients' money, take money away. We even see that in our PTOs, where the people that are in charge of the PTO take money off the top, or take all of the money. Just recently, a police officer of many years, many years, highly respected by even myself, I have to be honest with you, was arrested for taking money from the evidence. And nobody was more shocked than me. So, and you're innocent to proven guilty, but it was like, wow, I would have never thought. So, we also have some other swindles that are out there, the subprime mortgage swindles, the foreclosure rescue scams. I'll help you get out of that deal. Don't worry about it. And there's also religious swindles out there. We see that an awful lot, where if you give me all your money, that's your pathway to heaven. It doesn't work like that, by the way. So there's a lot of chiseling schemes out there where they chisel money away from people. And, there's a lot of security chisels. White collar, it's when you look at white collar, it's exploding. But right now, the government's starting to look at it more. Why do you think they're starting to look at it more? Do you think it might have something to do with the fact that it's $660 billion that they're not getting taxed, they're not taxing, that they're not getting part of? Or is it because there's so many victims that are saying enough is enough? I don't know. It's a big question out there. I also want to get into a little bit of blue collar pilferage. That's the lower part of that working wrong that's taking away, systematic theft of company property, taking a little bit at a time. Where might you see that? You might see that as the girl who or the guy who works at the bank and systematically takes, okay, a little bit of money here and there as it comes in, or somebody who works for a store and brings up, $100 but doesn't bring up the next $100. Systematically, they take a little. Are they the top of the chain? No, but they're the bottom of that chain, and they're systematically taken away from that. There's also management fraud, where they're converting or receiving company assets for personal benefit. When we talk about, I want to go a little bit into green crime too, because I could go on this forever, but I do want to talk a little bit about green crime. But before I do that, I want you to think of also illegal restraint of trade and price fixing. It is illegal to price fix in the United States, which is a really good thing. And we have deceptive pricing and false claims. So what's deceptive pricing? You're going to get this car and it's going to be, rock bottom price. Here's the invoice. What they don't tell you is for every car they sell, they get more money. It's a bonus. So false claims advertising, if you come in, where do you see false claim advertising? All the time in timeshares. All the time. Think twice about buying a timeshare, by the way. I want to talk about green collar crime. Green collar crime is there's different views on green collar crime. You probably all just kind of got dizzy there when I jumped out of my chair. But green collar crime is we have people who are it says environmental crimes are violations of existing criminal laws designed to protect people, the environment, or both. So you have somebody. We live in Massachusetts. We have a very old state. In our old state, we have some lead in our house. We have some asbestos in our house. And to get rid of all of that, it's extremely expensive. So you have companies that'll come in and say they're going to do that and they're going to get rid of it, and then they dump it somewhere else. So it's illegal dumping, or it's illegal fishing. There's many different kinds. You have illegal logging. What happens when you illegal log? Do you think that what's a big deal? So they're taking a few trees. Well, sometimes they're taking a whole mountainside, and when you take that whole mountainside, you can cause mudslides. You can cause huge damage, and lives die from these mudslides without the trees, to hold it there. We also have illegal wildlife exports and imports. That's very highly regulated. I don't know why everybody thinks having an elephant tusk is so important. But if you're looking to do something, an interesting paper, you might want to do it on illegal wildlife exports and imports. That is a really fascinating paper, by the way. We also have illegal fishing. The Georges Bank, which is one of the most prolific areas to fish in the, United States, has been shut down off and on over the years because of overfishing. But there's no regulation by the Canadians, and so what happens is that their fish pricing goes much lower, and um, you know, you have areas that it's the salmon. The salmon are highly regulated in Alaska and in Seattle. Why? Because of overfishing. Illegal dumping is one of the big ones. I mean, we all have been out going down the side of the road and we see somebody that got rid of a bed. Really? That's the place you want to dump the bed? That makes me crazy. A funny, I don't know if it's a funny story, but I can tell you, I have a real problem with people who are trash people, you know, throw trash wherever they want. And one time I was in a car with my girlfriend, and this person threw a six-pack, an empty six-pack, out the car window, and he was stopped at the light in front. I hopped out of the car and I jumped up, I got the six-pack, and I brought it back to him. I said, "Sorry, but I think you must have misplaced this." He didn't know what to do. He took it and he was like, "Oh, okay, must have just fell out of the car." How does it fall out of the car? I saw you throw it out of the car. I have an issue with that. So we have illegal dumping, but some of that illegal dumping is harmful to you as well, which is your asbestos and your lead, and you know there's illegal the chemicals. I mean, these are all things that hurt you somewhere along the line. And illegal polluting that goes right in with your illegal dumping as well. That's all part of your green crime. When you start looking at our ecosystem and how we depend on it to live, you should be mad. And if you really want to see a good movie, go see Deep Horizons. I did have the clip on there for you to see for this class, and I really would like you to see it. It will very much help you do your paper, your not your paper, but your PowerPoint. So until we meet again, I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions, if you ever need me, you know I'm just a text away. 413-883-3537. Bye bye.